Former wardens and prison guards from the Metropolitan Detention Center, where Diddy is currently being held, have come forward with shocking details about his situation. Reports suggest that Diddy's cell is under constant surveillance following allegations that he may have attempted self-harm.
The only famous inmate to be housed there, we had Sam Bankman-Fried there, R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, they were all inmates there. Sean Combs is being kept away from the general inmate population. You say his fame makes him a target.
Yeah, sure, and not necessarily at the MTC only. I mean,
anywhere.
Yes, in my humble estimation, his life, his safety is in jeopardy in any correctional lockup right now. If it is true, as reported, that he is housed in a special housing unit, it's important to note that the special housing unit is a lockdown, 24-hour lockdown unit. MTC Brooklyn is a high-rise. Vast majority of the floors are general population floors. The special housing unit is a 24-hour lockdown facility. So this is for Mr. Combs' protection. He's an incredible worldwide celebrity combined with the allegations, the charges now, of course, of acts of violence against women make him a very attractive target.
All right.
So they need to safeguard him.
This is a man accustomed to the very finest. He was arrested at the Park Hyatt Hotel in New York City, known for its luxury suites and exceptional food and wine, where one-bedroom suites start at $3,000 a night. He was probably staying in something larger. What is life like for him now at the MDC?
I would say 100% total culture shock. The MDC is, I've used the word austere a lot, but it is. It's austere, it's strict, it's impersonal, it's cold, and it is a very tough place.
Diddy is set to spend the next 6 months at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, New York. His trial is currently scheduled for May 5th, 2025, but it seems he's facing serious challenges behind bars. Reports indicate that Diddy has been placed in solitary confinement, separated from the general population due to alleged threats on his life. Sources claim that individuals Diddy once blackmailed are now targeting him, making the general population unsafe for him. To make matters worse, allegations of child abuse have further complicated his situation. In prison, those accused of such crimes often face severe danger, with many not surviving their first 6 months. It's clear that Diddy's fears are growing as the days go by.
Tasha, see, for the first time in his life, Sean Diddy Combs has spent a week behind bars. He's here inside MDC, where he's been since his arrest on Monday night on federal trafficking and other charges, to all of which he's pleaded not guilty. There's no VIP section, there is no concierge, only conmen, killers, and kingpins. MDC is so bad, federal judges have questioned the harsh conditions for those here awaiting trial. So bad I was here 2 years ago during a cold spell, reporting on detainees with no heat, pounding on windows for help. There was even a congressional inquiry, but take the word of a former inmate I spoke with who goes by Esco.
Terrible. Food is terrible. Safety image is terrible. The guards are terrible. Conditions are terrible. She's terrible.
The inmates that you're surrounded around in general, a lot of them are involved from the heavy federal indictments, right? So just in terms of the atmosphere there, which is certainly one no one wants in.
Combs was placed in a special housing unit and on suicide watch, the standard protocol for high-profile celebrity detainees. The disgraced mogul was denied bail by 2 separate judges. His attorney, Mark Agnifilo, asked the court to transfer him to the federal detention section at the Essex County Jail, but the judge deferred to the Bureau of Prisons. Federal trial attorney Philip Hamilton says lockdown can mean a lot less time to prepare your defense.
In terms of fighting your case, it just makes it all the more difficult, because now in terms of you being able to communicate with your attorney, you are at the realms of just what's going on at the facility. If it's on lockdown,
detainees on suicide watch will tear away paper hospital-style garments and rubber shower shoes. The isolation may be the worst part for Combs. It's being done for his protection in the violence-prone facility. He will have no bunkie.
Probably going to have any contact with any other inmates. So for him, it's going to be a little different than for a person like me. I would go to process and then take and then sign for sale and I would or settlement and gain population.
For him to be able to get out at this point.
New details about Diddy's life behind bars have emerged, and sources close to the situation reveal that he's nearing his breaking point. So far, Diddy has been unable to make a single friend and spends nearly 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. Reports suggest he was caught attempting to bribe inmates for access to their phone privileges. However, once prosecutors became aware, he was forced to stop. Allegedly, Diddy had been using the calls to contact victims and interfere with witnesses, adding yet another layer of controversy to his already tumultuous situation.
Behind bars look like. He reportedly only gets 1 hour daily of recreation and 3 showers a week. He served breakfast, lunch, and dinner that is delivered to his cell. But instead of extravagant meals he was once accustomed to, he can expect foods like egg noodles, cereal, chili, peas, and if needed, there are reportedly vegetarian options as well. But if those foods don't work, NBC Brooklyn's commissary list has a list of additional foods and snack items, including a 6-pack of Hershey bars for $7.05, peanut butter for a little more than $3, stuffed chicken with rice for $5.75, plus more options. Diddy was once a staple at New York's biggest fashion event of the year, the Met Gala, and a frequenter of fashion weeks across the globe. Now will be forced to wear clothes not from haute couture, but instead a switch-up to essentially sweats. For extra clothes, he can purchase a sweatshirt for a little more than $16, New Balance sneakers for about $55, boxer briefs for a little more than $6, plus a bath towel and washcloth set for about $12. And while confined to a cell for 23 hours a day, which is a huge difference from throwing now infamous parties, to pass the time, Diddy can purchase an MP3 player for a little under $90. But according to reports, he has a spending limit of $160, a huge downgrade from the billions he was seemingly spending.
Former inmate Larry Levine, who has first-hand experience at the Metropolitan Detention Center, has revealed that Diddy's life is in serious danger. According to Levine, multiple inmates are targeting Diddy, and it's only a matter of time before something violent happens. Used to the luxury of 5-star hotels, Diddy is now at his psychological breaking point. Eyewitness reports confirm that he has lost a considerable amount of weight and appears visibly depressed, a far cry from the confident persona he once projected.
News right now, Larry. I am just getting word. People magazine says it's got a source on the inside that tells them that P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it's possible?
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the shoe have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. Let's state for him. Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, it was like an overnight guest. When they told his bond hearing, now they checked him into the system, and reality has hit him. And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch. Another error that some warden told you this. There are sentenced inmates there. They're called cadre inmates. They don't have to be white-collar inmates, but they're doing maintenance on the building. And the problem, why there's a lot of violence there, they have housing units. And they're mixing bank robbers, drug dealers, rapists with white-collar people. This is why Diddy, he can't go into a regular housing unit because somebody will take him out for sure. Somebody is going to get a lot of street credibility out of this. People that are doing substantial time know they're never getting out. They'll just kill a guy. No questions asked.
You think that they'd suck up to him because he's got a lot of money, and if he ever does get the commissary options, he would be able to help them.
Some people do.
I got to wrap it real quick.
Okay. Some people do think that Diddy can help them. But this guy's going to be locked up forever. His case will probably take at least 3 years to litigate. He'll stay at MDC. There's rumors that he wants to go to Essex County Jail in New Jersey. He doesn't like
right.
MDC. He's a marshal's inmate. There's no way they're going to transfer him back and forth, I don't know, several times a week, 6 marshals.
The sensitive information Diddy may possess has made him a target, drawing comparisons to figures like Epstein. Several people close to Diddy have claimed that he doesn't have the mental toughness to survive behind bars, and his recent meltdown only seems to confirm this. Allegedly, Diddy was seen crying and screaming, pleading with guards to release him. Despite being in custody for only a few months, Diddy seems already on the brink of giving up.
According to a report from the Daily Mail, that's why Diddy had a breakdown. A person close to him apparently said, quote, spending the holidays behind bars was a nightmare for him. You won't believe all this. Diddy had a meltdown in his cell and begged the guards to take him to the hospital for observation, but they refused. This same friend or person told the Daily Mail, quote, he eventually managed to calm himself down with the meditation technique he's been using while he's been behind bars. It took him a few hours of deep breathing and focusing to get out of the bad space he was in, but he finally managed it. This is the first time Diddy's mental health has come into question while he's been at MDC. When he first arrived, he was on suicide watch, which the U.S. Department of Justice National Institute of Corrections describes as supervisory precautions taken for suicidal inmates that require frequent observation. Diddy's suicide watch was only temporary, though. He was housed in a special protective unit of the jail after that for the first few weeks of his stay. But Diddy right now is in Gen Pop, meaning general population, the place where majority of the inmates stay. And that's where he appears.
Diddy's legal team has requested that he be transferred to a different correctional facility, citing his discomfort with the current conditions. However, the judge has denied their request. Diddy's situation continues to deteriorate with each passing day, and sources warn that even if another inmate doesn't harm him, there's a significant risk he might hurt himself. Gene Deal, who lived with Diddy for years, shared his concerns, stating that he knows Diddy's character well. Having always lived a life of luxury, Diddy is struggling to adapt to the harsh realities of prison life, and his survival behind bars remains uncertain.
When you know him personally, it's possible he might take his life.
It takes a certain individual to prepare himself to do a lot of years in jail. From the lifestyle that he had, I'm not saying that he can't. I just don't see him able to do time behind bars. Maybe if he be in a camp type situation, that's a possibility. But based on the lifestyle and what he's done and what he's accomplished, if he had to go behind those bars for a lot of years, I think that he may commit suicide. He'd do an Epstein.
Why do you think he would pull a Russell Simmons and leave the country?
They was watching him, bro. They was watching him. And then I think that he had to turn over his passport. Even if you own your own private jet, they have a system up there where that they're supposed to check your passport and anything that you need to fly as if you were flying commercial. He's suffering the consequence, and I don't feel bad for him at all. People was trying to talk to him. People was trying to tell him. You couldn't pull him by the coat and let him know anything. You understand? They messed up the game, brother. When he put that shit out with them, money, power, respect, it ain't never been like that. It ain't never been like that. You got your respect in the street that gave you your power, that brought you your money. Totally different thing. He let that money, power, and respect go to his head, but he had it ass back. So do I care what happened? No. He got enough money to buy his way out of this. So we think.
So when you look at that video of him pacing around and he's looking worried, and you knowing him, do you think it's possible that he might commit suicide?
When you're a narcissist, there's always a possibility because you suffer. But I don't think that he can see himself in a cage. I don't think he can see himself behind those bars in those type of situations. There's too many real dudes that dislike him. But then again, there's a lot of real dudes that need help. And him being behind bars, he could probably help him.
Diddy's legal team has put together a $50 million bail package, which includes offering the family's passports and even Diddy's $48 million Miami mansion as collateral in an attempt to secure his release. Despite the considerable assets on the table, Judge Ein Submanin has denied his bail request. As of now, Diddy remains behind bars, with no sign of release in the near future.
What do you think about that counter-argument? Because his team said, we're going to put together the proposed bail package. $50 million bond, co-signed by him, his mom, his sister, the mother of his oldest daughter, and his 3 adult sons. It's going to be secured by the equity in his property in Miami, Florida. Home detention, his passport will be surrendered. The government said that's insufficient. They said, look at the charges, look at the weight of the evidence that I just mentioned. They said they have allegations that he and his associates were trying to tamper with witness testimony last year so that they wouldn't cooperate with the government. What do you take away about who has a stronger argument in terms of bail?
Well, I think his counsel has done the best they possibly can. I think bringing him there voluntarily is very smart, starts them out on the right foot. But I think the last thing that you just mentioned, the interfering with witnesses.
That's the allegation, yeah.
Yeah, if that's true, or I should say, if there's real addition that happened, I think that might keep the scales in favor of not letting it out pending trial, because I think, you know this, I think judges take an extraordinarily dim view of that, and that might be the factor that tips the scale against him. But I think as far as the tactic, I think it was very smart to do what they did and say, look, you know, he's here, you didn't have to track him down, he's got a real defense here, he's doing everything right, at least right now. I'm not sure it's going to be enough.
During a raid on Diddy's Miami mansion, federal officers uncovered a disturbing collection of evidence that has significantly intensified the charges against him. Among the items seized were hidden cameras, sex toys, bondage gear, lingerie, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, all allegedly linked to events referred to as freak-offs. One officer even went as far as to claim that Diddy's actions are worse than those of Jeffrey Epstein.
Years, P. Diddy's gotten a whole pass. He's actually created his own kingdom where he makes his own rules. You got to follow his rules, and you get penalized. And guess what, Laura? He's now in a federal penitentiary, and for the first time in his life, he's facing his own fate at the hands of somebody else. And I will tell you, Laura, I've done federal cases, that's not the place you want to be in federal court. 90% of federal criminal indictments brought down are pled out, right? A plea deal is brought. And of the only 10% left, 90% of those defendants who go to trial, they lose. So he is looking at a daunting uphill battle to fight these horrible charges.
Now, Brian, one of the DHS agents involved in this raid on his Miami mansion described what he saw inside the house, saying that, in my opinion, he's as bad as Epstein. These women are young, either barely legal or barely illegal. Brian, this sounds like he was a monster.
Yeah, Laura, I will tell you that this indictment was very detailed, by the way, too. Your viewers should know there were over 300 subpoenas, over 50 witnesses interviewed. Why is that important? Because the federal prosecutors aren't going to be leveling an indictment like this unless they have ammunition and they have cause to bring it. And the core issue at this case, which the feds have to prove, which it's looking like they can, is that P. Diddy essentially controlled these women. That he threatened them with stopping the money that he was paying them, that he spiked their drinks with drugs, that's been alleged in the indictment, and that he basically told them, I'm going to ruin your life unless you engage in these freak-offs. And that's really what the prosecutor's got to prove. If you've got some victims coming forward to talk about that, you've got financial records that prove that, travel itinerary that proves that, P. Diddy has very little defense. And I got to tell you, Laura, if this guy wants to fight these charges, he's going to have to step up and walk into a courtroom and talk about it. If he doesn't testify in this case, he is dead on arrival.
Well, who else is on these tapes? I mean, will the tapes ever see the light of day? I mean, that's what everybody's talking. Who else is there? It's like with the Epstein, his pleasure island. Who else? Who went? Who was there? What's the manifest? But Brian, chances 1 being least likely, 10 being most likely. Will we learn of other celebrities that were at these freak-offs?
Yeah, I think you've got an 8 or a 9 for a likelihood you're going to hear about it. Why? Because there are going to be more indictments coming down, Laura. That's an important point here, because he's being charged with racketeering and conspiracy. You're going to have, let's start on the inner circle. You're going to have former bodyguards. You can possibly have former musicians that he was with. You've got personal assistants that are going to be already talking about. They're good. Some of those are likely to be charged. And then guess what? You've got some music moguls that are sending women over to these alleged freak-offs. Then you've got some top people that are going to start crumbling too, because they're all part of what's called this criminal enterprise.
Jay-Z's legal troubles are far from over. The music mogul, his label, and his legal team are all facing lawsuits. Recently, Jay-Z's legal team was accused of engaging in bribery. The lawyer leading the case against Diddy claims that Jay-Z's team impersonated federal officers, harassing victims by flashing fake badges and pressuring them to lie.
To Cardella Smith's filing. His notice says that Jennifer Lynn Lopez, aka J-Lo, aka Jenny from the Block, quote, will be called as a material witness and expert to Sean Combs' viewing, possession, and distribution of his sexual assault upon the plaintiff in 1997, and the orders of defendant Sean Combs forcing Jennifer Lopez to remain silent about the videotaped sexual assault of plaintiff by defendant. Plaintiff states that the material witness Jennifer Lynn Lopez, also known as J-Lo and Jenny from the Block, was engaged in a relationship with the defendant Sean Combs during 1999 and 2001, and that the sexual assault of the plaintiff was recorded, distributed, and held by the defendant at his New York residence and recording studio. During the relationship with Jennifer Lopez, she was made privy to this video that was taken by Sean Combs and his employee Kirk Burrows. She, J-Lo, has known this video existed and was in existence and took no action to make it known to anyone in law enforcement, and that she was even questioned by New York Police Detective Derek Palmer about this matter, and that the report will show that her answers to this tape was and still remains a resounding yes to its existence. And again, Cardella Smith writes that he wants to call Officer Derek Palmer as a witness, because he says Palmer is the one who questioned Lopez and believes that he will have testimony that could help his case. As I mentioned, Diddy's legal team has called for this entire case to be thrown. Cardella Smith has filed a massive response to that request that totaled more than 200 pages. Probably half of it was just straight up copies of case law that seems to support his arguments, word for word. It's something out of like a legal textbook. There's so much to slog through, but I kind of want to give you some of the highlights. So first, in addition to the claims of rape and a cover-up, Cardella Smith also claims and alleges that Combs was violent towards his loved ones. At times, Cardella Smith addresses alleged threats against his family. Other times, he says Combs actually caused serious injuries to his brother. His response reads, defendant used threats of murder, forced the plaintiff to not bring the case to any court of law enforcement until the homes of the defendant were raided by Homeland Security, that the plaintiff knew it was a safe time to bring the case, and that is why we are here at this juncture. Cardella Smith argued that fear for his own safety and the safety of his family is one of the main reasons that he waited so long to report the alleged rape. Says that that reason alone should override any issue with the statute of limitations, that these claims might otherwise be time-barred. And he also argues that while he's been in prison, fellow inmates and prison guards have threatened him on behalf of Sean Combs.
Diddy's life behind bars is quickly turning into a nightmare. From the threats in the general population to the psychological toll of solitary confinement, the once powerful mogul seems to be unraveling. With mounting evidence, denied bail, and even his closest allies feeling the heat, the pressure is on. But what do you think? Will Diddy survive this storm, or is this the beginning of the end for him and everyone connected to his empire? Drop your thoughts in the comments.